Tonight, jubilation as Toronto is named one of the host cities for the 2026 FIFA World Cup.
He's super excited. I'm super excited. We're getting ready.
Yep, it's official. We'll have reaction from elated soccer fans and what this will mean for the city. Plus,
our hospital is running well over 100% capacity on pretty much every day.
Patients are experiencing record wait times in Ontario's emergency rooms despite a decline in COVID patients. We'll look at why. And
it's overwhelming. I'm anxious every step of the way.
Toronto Community Housing is starting the process of moving displaced Swansea Mews residents into longer-term housing, but some have concerns about the list of options. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. Toronto has been selected as one of the 16 host cities for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Vancouver is the other Canadian city where matches will be played. The big announcement was made earlier this evening. Our Dale Manukduk joins us live from BMO Field. And Dale, a huge moment for the city.
Yeah, Kelda, in just 4 years, BMO Field will be host to the biggest sporting event in the world. But I want to take you back to earlier this evening. I was at the announcement watch party at Real Sports Bar. It was pure joy, a lot of Canadian pride on display. Most of the people in attendance were decked out in red. So Vancouver was announced first as one of the host cities because they were doing it in order of Western region, Central region, and then Eastern. When it landed on Toronto, it was like New Year's in the room. There were loud roars, hands in the air, people hugging. It was like Canada scored a game-winning goal or even won the World Cup. And speaking of which, we know the men qualified for their first one since 1986. And we know for sure now that they'll be playing in front of home fans in either Vancouver or Toronto, and those fans could not be happier.
Everyone grows up watching the World Cup, right? And then now it's here in Toronto. The whole world's going to be watching Toronto. It's big for the city. It's big for everyone.
I didn't even think we were going to make it, let alone host it. So it's a big thing. It's a big thing.
Absolutely, just floored. He's super excited. I'm super excited. We're getting ready.
Toronto's such a multicultural city. The World Cup brings out the best in the city, and I think that as one team for Canada, I think it's just fantastic. I'm elated.
Kelda, that baby in there was just 5 months old, but you gotta get them started early.
Oh, absolutely. And Dale, this is all very exciting, of course, but it's sure to carry a hefty price tag. How much is this going to cost the city?
So we know that City Council received a report back in March projecting that hosting 5 matches would have a GDP impact of over $300 million. It would create 3,300 jobs and bring in over 170,000 overnight visitors. So all in all, the operating and capital costs would be $290 million. The city's going to pick up a third of that price tag, with the province and feds splitting the balance. Now, Mayor John Tory says it's well worth it.
The world will be looking, hundreds of millions of people watching every game in Toronto and in Vancouver. This is going to cause more visitors to come. It's going to cause more people to come and invest. Just the very fact they might come here for a game, they'll see these cities, Toronto and Vancouver, and see they're among the greatest places in the world to live and do business. So this is big for the economy, as it is big for sports, and it's good for the psychology of these cities. It's an uplifting thing to have this go on. So I'm very bullish about this and think the investment will more than pay itself back many times.
So there is work to do in Vancouver. There is work to do in Vancouver and Toronto. Vancouver less so because BC Place already has a capacity of 55,000 people, and FIFA World Cup matches, they have to be played in stadiums that seat 40,000. BMO Field has a seating capacity of just 30, so they're going to have to make up that 10,000 difference. Kelda.
All right, thanks so much, Dale. Exciting times. That's Dale Manukduk live for us tonight. Well, patients in emergency rooms across this province are waiting longer than ever to get admitted to hospital. And it's happening even though the number of patients hospitalized with COVID-19 has been steadily dropping. So what's going on? Our Queen's Park senior reporter Mike Crawley takes a look.
Dr. Andrew Arcand is the chief of emergency medicine here at Markham Stouffville Hospital. His ER is as busy as he's ever seen it.
Our acuity, or the sickness level of our patients, is far higher than it has ever been. Probably the most dramatic thing is our hospital is running well over 100% capacity on pretty much every day.
The result? Patients sick enough to be admitted to hospital spending unprecedented lengths of time stuck in the emergency room waiting for a bed on the ward.
And that is at a level that we've not seen ever before in our department's history, nor during the pandemic itself. So it's pretty difficult, challenging times.
The situation at Markham Stouffville is by no means unique in Ontario.
We're basically stretched like no time I've ever seen in my career, and that's going back 15 years.
Dr. Howard Evans has worked in ERs for more than 40 years.
Our emergency departments are under more stress than I've ever seen in my career.
And it's not just an anecdotal thing. The latest provincial figures show the average patient spending a record high 20 hours in the emergency room waiting to get admitted. What's going on? Even though the number of COVID patients in Ontario hospitals has been steadily dropping, the pandemic is a factor.
The emergency departments are on fire. I think that's probably the best way to describe how emergency services are operating.
Staff are calling in sick because of COVID exposures, or they're burned out from more than 2 years of draining frontline work.
I don't think the people in Ontario really know what is going on in the emergency rooms. We're seeing extremely high patient ratios. Can you believe it? One registered nurse for 31 patients, and that's in an emerge.
Also, the number of seriously ill people coming to the ERs is higher than ever, often because they delayed treatment during earlier waves.
People presenting in a much more ill state of whatever illness they might have, be it, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, whatever the case may be, they're coming in and they're coming in sicker, requiring admission.
And with hospitals working flat out to catch up on postponed surgeries, the wards are full, adding to longer waits in emergency, either to see a doctor or to get a bed. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto Community Housing has started a formal long-term relocation process for residents living in Swansea Mews. All residents were ordered to leave the public housing complex after a ceiling collapsed on a woman, and the buildings were deemed unsafe. The TCH says they have enough housing to relocate everyone, but some residents have concerns about the options. Meg Roberts explains.
We're working hard to ensure that we give tenants every opportunity to relocate and get away from this significant safety risk as quickly as possible.
Secure long-term housing is what Toronto Community Housing is promising Swansea Mews residents. Some have been staying in temporary locations, others still living in the units. Today, TCH has started offering the first round of residents housing options.
Then moving into long-term stable accommodations. And once, that is my first priority. Second is trying to get a really clear idea as to what it's going to take and how long it's going to take.
Residents will pick their top choices from a list provided by TCH. If there's competition for a unit, it goes to a lottery system. Nazra Ahmed is currently living at Humber College. She's seen the housing list and says the options are in neighborhoods she doesn't want to live in, and the homes don't meet her standards.
It's nerve-wracking. It's overwhelming. I'm anxious every step of the way. And I expressed my feelings to them that I'm very worrisome for myself and my children's future.
Neil White hasn't left Swansea Mews yet, despite being ordered to vacate.
We know it's unsafe. We're willing to leave. Just give us a reasonable option to go to.
Given the extent of damage to the building, he foresees he will likely have to be relocated for a long period of time. He believes the organization could be more transparent.
Everybody here is traumatized, they're stressed, they're scared, they're scarred. Like, there is no trust with this company anymore.
Community Housing says it's trying to work with residents and fix any gaps that might exist. It's created a hotline and email inbox for residents to message, and says it will pay for moving expenses. Meg Roberts, CBC News, Toronto.
Meteorologist Colette Kennedy joins us now with a first look at the forecast. And Colette, a scorcher out there today with some areas seeing some pretty severe weather.
Yeah, all the ingredients there, and certainly the heat and humidity part of that equation. We had some wind shear as well. Just all these things kind of coming together as that cold front moved in. We were ahead of it, obviously, with temperatures like this. In fact, Pearson popped up to 33.3, a new record for this state in history since records began in 1938. You see that 33 back towards Windsor. And remember, you still have to factor in the humidity in terms of how it felt. So those humidex values, we saw some of those certainly popping up very, very significant at times into the 40s. And even at one point, Toronto was up to 41, Hamilton as well. So that was one piece of this. And then as that front came through, I've got this on a rewind. Don't worry, everything's long over with, but kind of starting from noon through to about 5:30, and at times even seeing those tornado warnings through Madoc, Tweed, Kingston region, plus that nearly Toonie-sized hail there towards Scarborough and Pickering. Overnight tonight, big changes. 19 tomorrow, a comfortable day, but breezy with a high of 25.
Thanks so much, Colette. Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland has outlined nearly $9 billion in federal supports designed to help Canadians cope with inflation. Freeland says Canada's economy has made a remarkable recovery from the pandemic recession and is one of the strongest in the world, but she admits there are months of uncertainty ahead.
A soft landing is not guaranteed. But fortunately for all of us, there is absolutely no country in the entire world better placed than Canada to achieve that soft landing.
In her first major speech since delivering the federal budget back in April, Freeland spelled out the measures the government has already introduced. It was a response to criticism that her government isn't doing enough. Freeland says the $8.9 billion affordability plan addresses inflation. It focuses on 5 main points, including managing the debt, creating good jobs, and funding a suite of support programs. We have more tonight on the data released by Toronto Police. The chief made an apology yesterday to members of the city's Black community after stats showed they are more likely to experience police use of force and strip searches. While some are renewing calls for sweeping change to the service, the union representing officers say it worries the data may be misleading. Lorena Redekop explains.
It hurts our morale. I'll be very honest with you.
The head of the Police Association says hearing the stats was hard for officers. Use of force data found Black people 2.2 times more likely to have a police interaction, 1.5 times more likely to have a police firearm pointed at them than white people.
Officers are being painted somewhat, some of them as being racist, I think, quite honestly. And that's unfounded.
He'd like to see more data, the situations leading to the use of force, the types of crimes, a number of people involved. He says racism isn't okay. But like the police chief said yesterday, there are measures in place to deal with problems. For people who've been protesting against police for years, this backs their fight for defunding.
If we want to trust data today, then we should trust the data that tells us that the police are highly ineffective at a lot of what they do and very effective at killing and harming us.
One University of Toronto professor sees the race-based data as a missed opportunity to not find the problem officers or police units.
Provides an excellent means of identifying those individuals and their problematic behaviors. And therefore, the policy and the strategy as it stands now has a huge hole in it.
In terms of what the service plans to do next, it came out with 38 action items, divided into 5 categories: listening and understanding, governance, communication, training, and procedures and workflow. 6 are listed as already completed, 22 in progress, 10 not yet started.
I think they really lack any attention to accountability.
In any case, he expects it'll be years before they're all put in place, if at all.
We have an interim chief, yes, and we have, the political winds change, the public attention changes.
Meanwhile, another report with more recommendations is coming. The Ontario Human Rights Commission is working on its final report into anti-Black racism by the Toronto Police Service. Lorena Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. Toronto police have identified the city's latest murder victim. 28-year-old Kian Hosseini was shot and killed just steps from Shepherd Yonge subway station last night. It happened just after 10 p.m. Police are releasing few details about what happened or any suspect information. Investigators are appealing to witnesses to contact them. A Toronto man has a message for everyone in the city, and he's taken out a billboard along Yonge Street to share it. As Natalie Collette explains, in a world of growing division, Doug Bauer is trying to spread some positivity.
That's the philosophy I live with. People treating other people like they would like to be treated.
At 85 years old, Doug Bauer has seen a lot in his life, but what
he's witnessing now has him worried.
It was all the negativity that I hear on radio and television, newspapers and whatnot. Even, on the street you hear people, nobody seems to be happy anymore. So I decided I was going to do something about it.
So he's decided to take out a billboard with a message for all those driving and walking by. Do as many nice things for people every day without expecting anything in return. The only problem?
I told my wife that it was going to cost between $3,000 and $4,000, and she was not overjoyed with that. So I sent an email out to 16 people, and within 24 hours, the sign was paid for.
Now the positive message reigns high over Yonge and Lawrence, allowing those passing it a chance to stop and reflect.
Wow. It's pretty deep.
I like it. I think as, humans, we forget to look out for other people. And, I think it's just a nice reminder that it's not all about you and to be less selfish and think about other people more often.
I think it's a really great thing.
I actually took a photo of it the other day. It's really cute. I think it's great.
And Bauer hopes it may just brighten up someone's day at a time when we could all really use some positivity.
800,000 eyes will be on that over the month of June. And I was floored when I heard that. And so hopefully one person will take on my philosophy.
Natalie Collada, CBC News, Toronto.
And this is a live look at the Toronto skyline. Mostly clear tonight and through the overnight. Still quite muggy outside though. Currently 27 degrees in the city. Let's go back to Colette now with a look at your extended forecast. And Colette, we can expect it to feel cooler and more comfortable tomorrow.
Yeah, so many big changes behind this cold front. Yes, we do have some breezy conditions and carrying on with those, and I'll show you in more detail here coming up what the models are suggesting. But less hot, less humid, very important for many, I know. And for Saturday, we are talking about sunny conditions, although there'll be quite a bit of cloud cover for Friday night into Saturday morning. We'll get into nice clearing, a much cooler feel. It's improving tomorrow, but you're really going to feel it into Saturday. And then Father's Day, of course, on Sunday, and things are looking pretty good and dry, which is important because there's a chance of showers as we get towards, say, Sunday night or Monday, but it's kind of slim or becoming slimmer. So a look at still a little bit of instability behind the front, and that pushing through eastern Ontario. Otherwise, it's mostly clear overnight tonight, quiet, calmer conditions than the rocking and rolling earlier with some of that severe weather. And then for Friday, a little bit of building cloud at times, then a lot comes in overnight into Saturday morning. This is 6 a.m., so you're into the sunshine there, back towards Windsor, Sarnia, London, through Chatham, Kent. But we're going to need to see that clear, and it will by about lunchtime for eastern Ontario. But lots of sunshine through the GTA, and for Sunday, like I said, it's looking pretty quiet, so a mix of sun and cloud. So some of those wind gusts, as those winds shift direction, there'll probably be a pocket into tomorrow where we're going to see some very strong winds, especially into cottage country, kind of midday into the afternoon. So be aware of that kind of, you want to tie things up that need to be tied down or put away, cushions on outdoor furniture, that kind of thing, just to make sure you don't lose anything. So 25 for tomorrow, a little humidity, not much at all. And you're not going to be feeling humidity on Saturday. You'll notice the coolness, dryness of the air. And then 21 for Father's Day. And as we go into next week, not complete agreement here, but it looks like, at least into southwestern Ontario, some temperatures building towards those 30-degree marks again. For Toronto, I've got us just coming up a little bit as we go into Tuesday, Kelda.
Thanks so much, Colette. A new graduate of York University has done it a couple of years ahead of schedule. Saida Fatima Rizvi is just 19 years old and received her diploma this week. This was her advice for others hoping to follow in her footsteps.
Really got to focus on why you're doing this in the first place. Don't lose sight of what you're trying to achieve. Push for it. If you can take extra credits, do that. If you can do the most within the credits that you are taking, do that. Get on the dean's list, do something like that. But just give your 100% in everything that you do.
Rizvi is one of York's youngest graduates, and she is now aiming for a master's in globalization at McMaster. She's pictured here at her brother's graduation ceremony last month. And she hopes to one day get her PhD and bring everything she learned back home to the United Arab Emirates. Rizvi wasn't the only surprising guest to cross the stage. Over at Toronto Metropolitan University, a four-legged furry friend got his moment in the spotlight. Bao Bao is a corgi who is a communal service dog to his owners. He tagged along this morning as they received their diplomas.
He's a really good dog, and he came to school like almost every day with us. Because I bring him to school since he was 6 months old, so many people met him before,
and
the professor know him too. And
professor always invite Bao Bao to
come to the class.
Yeah.
Right now he's 4 years old, and sometimes in the final exam, I will bring Bao Bao to the exam room as well, and many people feel stressful, and when they see Bao Bao, and they will feel more comfortable. I was shy before and was very afraid to communicate with people, and when I first time come to downtown and I even don't have any friends, and Bao Bao make me like adapt to the university life well, and even if I fail the course or
have some sad moment.
Yeah, sad moment, and he will always support me and stay with me, and even like go to library to study with me too.
What does it mean to you to be able to cross that stage and not have to do this behind the screen?
I think it's very important to me because I think it represents a perfect ending for my 4 years life. Because as I said, he went to his whole 4 years study. So I think he's a perfect student and is qualified to be graduated here.
And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. And I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.